This is Dreamtime Science, where we paint the canvas of your dreams with the soft brushstrokes of scientific wonder. Together we'll explore the mysteries that dance at the edge of consciousness. I've been thinking about how nature seems to have its own secret code, patterns that show up in the swirl of a seashell or the delicate shape of a snowflake. There's something remarkable about how these designs aren't just random, but follow hidden mathematical rules that quietly shape the world around us. I can't wait to share some of these gentle mysteries with you tonight, and maybe you'll see a little more magic in the everyday shapes we often overlook. If you find peace in these nocturnal discoveries, consider becoming a regular visitor to our quiet corner of science. Share in the comments what topic you'd love to dream about next. Now, take a moment. Adjust your blanket. Find the perfect hollow in your pillow. Let your shoulders melt. Breathe in and out. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe deeply, letting the ordinary world fade to a gentle distance. As you settle into the quiet, allow yourself to drift into the deeper reaches of memory and imagination, where the universe unfolds as a tapestry of patterns, woven with threads of symmetry, rhythm, and number. All around us, in the silent drift of clouds, the branching of rivers, the spiraling arms of galaxies and seashells alike, there is a hum, a quiet insistence that the cosmos is not random but bound by hidden order. It is as if nature herself is a mathematician drawing with invisible ink. We begin at the smallest scale, where the dance of atoms gives rise to shape and matter. Consider the crystalline precision of a snowflake, six-fold symmetry etched by the alignment of water molecules as they freeze. Each flake is unique, yet every one is a child of mathematics, bound to the laws of chemistry and thermodynamics. The angles at which hydrogen and oxygen cling together, the way molecules nudge and repel, these are dictated by quantum rules, quantum numbers as they're called, a phrase that flutters and flickers at the edge of mystery. With each flake, the universe repeats a pattern, yet never repeats a form. Here, order and chaos are not enemies, but partners, dancing a duet that births endless variety from simple rules. Step back, and you will see the same mathematical signatures in the veins of a leaf, the branching of trees, the way lightning etches its jagged path through air. This is the domain of fractals, shapes that echo themselves on every scale, where the small mirrors the large, and the same geometry pulses through the heart of ferns and river deltas, coral reefs, and the blood vessels beneath your skin. The fractal dimension, a mathematical whisper, tells us that nature is not content with the blunt simplicity of lines and circles. Instead, she prefers to weave complexity from repetition, iteration, feedback. The coastline of Britain, measured with ever smaller rulers, becomes endlessly long, endlessly detailed, a paradox captured by the mind and mathematics of Benoit Mandelbrot. Yet patterns are not only spatial, they are temporal too. The beating of your heart, the cycle of waking and sleeping, the migration of birds and the blooming of cherry blossoms. These are rhythms, periodicities, the language of time as spoken by living things. Circadian clocks, encoded in the DNA of cyanobacteria and humans alike, tick in quiet synchrony with the turning of the earth. The pattern of day and night, the waxing and waning of the moon, the slow procession of seasons. Nature is a grand clockwork, gears meshing in cycles of astonishing precision and grace. Here, mathematics reveals itself as recurrence, as frequency, as the steady tick of a metronome beneath the surface of life. And further out, at the scale of planets and stars, symmetry and pattern expand their dominion. The planets trace out ellipses around the sun, as Johannes Kepler discovered in a time before telescopes could reveal the truth in detail. The laws that govern their motion are written in the language of conic sections, gravitational forces, and the calculus that Isaac Newton would later conjure from pure thought. The solar system itself, with its orbital resonances and regularities, is a cosmic dance floor, where gravity is the music and mass the dancers. The rings of Saturn, so delicately banded that they seem painted by hand, are sculpted by the mathematics of wave interactions and shepherd moons, small satellites that herd icy particles into ripples and gaps, echoing the way wind carves sand into dunes on Earth. Beyond even this, in the whirl of galaxies and the filaments of the cosmic web, patterns emerge that stagger the mind. Spiral arms, winding gracefully from the centers of galaxies, follow a mathematical curve known as the logarithmic spiral. It is the same shape that governs the growth of a nautilus shell or the curl of a sunflower's seeds. Why, across such gulfing distances and disparate forms, should the same spiral appear? The answer lies partly in physics, partly in the mathematics of growth and motion, and partly in the deep, mysterious unity of the cosmos. The universe, it seems, prefers certain shapes, certain rhythms, perhaps not because they are beautiful, though they are, but because they are stable, efficient, inevitable. In the gentle hush of twilight, when the world softens and boundaries blur, the presence of mathematical patterns in nature takes on the air of myth. It is here, in the liminal space between science and story, that the poets and the dreamers have always dwelt. Science fiction, in particular, has long been haunted by the idea that the universe is a book written in mathematical script waiting to be deciphered. In Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, a race of super-intelligent beings arrives on Earth, their technology and understanding so advanced that their ships hang in the sky with geometrical perfection, a silent promise of order imposed on chaos. In Stanislaw Lem's Solaris, the living ocean of a distant planet manifests forms and patterns so complex that human scientists are left bewildered, awed, convinced that behind every ripple and whirl there must be some deeper organizing code. Patterns in these stories are not merely curiosities, they are clues. They are glimpses into the machinery of existence, the scaffolding beneath appearances, the recurring motif of the spiral, the lattice, the tessellation. These are not just metaphors, but possibilities. What if the universe is fundamentally mathematical? What if the patterns we see are the handwriting of some deeper intelligence, be it cosmic law or alien mind? To the scientist, the mathematician, the artist, patterns are both comfort and provocation. They reassure us that the world is not wholly capricious, that beneath the seeming randomness of events there lies order, logic, law. But they also whisper of limits, boundaries, the edge of what can be known. For every pattern we explain, there are others that elude us, patterns that shimmer at the edge of chaos, neither fully random nor fully predictable. Consider for a moment the humble Fibonacci sequence, each number the sum of the two before it, a simple recursion. Yet from this innocent beginning unfolds a universe of forms, the arrangement of leaves around a stem, the florets in a sunflower's heart, the spiral of a pine cone, or a galaxy's arm. The ratio between consecutive Fibonacci numbers approaches the golden mean, that elusive proportion which architects and painters have chased for centuries. This ratio, 1.618, is neither rational nor simple, yet it emerges again and again from the processes of growth and self-organization. Why should plants, blindly following genetic instructions, produce structures that embody such abstract mathematics? Is it accident, or is it necessity? The answer lies in efficiency. The golden angle, about 137.5 degrees, allows seeds or leaves to be packed most tightly, each avoiding the shadow of its neighbor, maximizing sunlight and rain. What seems magical is, in truth, pragmatic. Yet the magic is not dispelled, it is only deepened. The same interplay between necessity and beauty haunts every mathematical pattern in nature. The honeycomb, with its perfect hexagons, arises not from the aesthetic sense of bees, but from the physics of surface tension and the economics of wax. A hexagonal grid uses less material to enclose more space, a solution that evolution, through countless iterations, has discovered and perfected. Yet the result is so pleasing, so resonant with human notions of order, that we cannot help but see intent, design, even artistry. Patterns are the fingerprints of physical law, but they are also the shadow of chance, the signature of history. The stripes of a zebra, the spots of a leopard, are not painted by a steady hand, but emerge from the dance of chemicals diffusing through embryonic skin, reacting and inhibiting each other in a process Alan Turing, the father of modern computing, once described in equations more elegant than any brushstroke. Turing's reaction diffusion model showed how simple rules could yield complex, unpredictable patterns, a revelation that blurred the line between order and randomness, symmetry and surprise. The tension between the predictable and the unpredictable is at the heart of pattern. Some patterns are rigorous, crystalline, as in the tessellations that fill the mosaics of Moorish palaces or the atomic grids of a diamond. Others are soft-edged, emergent, dissolving at the touch, like the murmuration of starlings wheeling in the sky, or the turbulence of cream swirling into coffee. Even chaos, that most unsettling of words, is not the absence of pattern, but the presence of a pattern so subtle, so sensitive to beginnings, that it defies compression into simple law. The weather, the stock market, the fluttering of a butterfly's wings, these are chaotic systems, deterministic yet unpredictable, patterns that unfurl into ever-new forms. Science fiction, again, has a particular affection for chaos and order, for the possibility that the deepest patterns are those we have yet to recognize. In Ted Chiang's Story of Your Life, the very structure of language and time is revealed as a pattern so alien, so recursive, that it reshapes the protagonist's understanding of causality itself. In the works of Isaac Asimov, the psychohistorians of the future attempt to distill the chaos of human history into mathematical laws, to predict the fate of civilizations as astronomers predict the motion of planets. The dream is always the same, that behind the flux of events there is a pattern, a code, a map, and perhaps there is. The search for pattern is a search for meaning, for something solid beneath the shifting sands of experience. In the quiet hours, when the stars wheel overhead and the world seems infinite, it is tempting to imagine that every spiral, every rhythm, every lattice is a sign, a message, the universe as cipher waiting to be read. The mind, in this gentle darkness, is a pattern-seeking engine, attuned to symmetry and repetition, to the music of mathematics that underlies all things. In the end, perhaps it is not only that the universe is patterned, but that we are. Our brains, evolved to find regularity in the world, are themselves built of repeating units, neurons firing in waves, synapses strengthening with use, habits and thoughts looping through the corridors of memory. The patterns we see out there are mirrored in here, and the boundary dissolves. Yet the patterns are never complete, never finished. There is always another iteration, another scale, another mystery. The Mandelbrot set, that infinitely complex shape born from a simple formula, shows us that pattern can be inexhaustible, that order can spiral into chaos and back again, forever. The patterns of the universe are not static, not fixed, but living, growing, changing, unfolding. So let yourself drift now into the soft spaces between wakefulness and sleep, where the mind begins to wander and the world becomes strange once more. Listen to the quiet pulse of your own heartbeat, the rhythm of your breath, and know that you too are part of this great pattern. Somewhere, far away, a spiral galaxy wheels through the darkness, its arms tracing the same curve as the shell of a snail. Somewhere closer, a seed unfurls in the dark soil, reaching for the sun in a Fibonacci spiral. Patterns within patterns, stories within stories, all bound by the same mathematics, the same music. The universe is not silent, not random, but composed, intricate, humming with structure. And though we have only begun to read its script, to translate its patterns into understanding, the journey has already revealed wonders. There is more to come, more to see, as we follow these threads deeper into the tapestry. In the next moment, in the next breath, the patterns shift, and a new mystery unfolds. As the night deepens and the world outside quiets, we turn our attention to the intricate web of mathematics that underlies the living tapestry of nature, a web more subtle and complex than any first glance might suggest. The notion that mathematics is nature's secret code, a set of elegant formulas etched invisibly into every leaf, shell, and constellation, is both alluring and, for many, irresistible. Yet as we move deeper into this realm, it becomes clear that the mathematical patterns of the natural world are not so much a set of rigid blueprints as they are a collection of tendencies, possibilities, and constraints, neither random nor utterly predetermined, but something softly in between. Let us unravel, for a moment, the golden spiral, that iconic swirl so often held up as the purest marriage of math and biology. The spiral is invoked as the signature of the Fibonacci sequence, which, as many are taught, arises when each number is the sum of the two preceding it, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so forth. The ratios of successive Fibonacci numbers converge toward a special value, the golden ratio, approximately 1.618. A number that seems to crop up in the most unexpected places. The allure of the golden ratio is legendary, and indeed you will find spirals close to its proportions in the whorls of sunflowers, the shells of nautiluses, and the arrangement of pine cones. Yet this is only a part of the story. Nature is not a strict mathematician, and the golden spiral is not an exact template imposed on every living thing. In the heart of the sunflower, for instance, the seeds arrange themselves in interlocking spirals, often counted by the attentive observer to find two sets, one winding left, the other right. You may tally 34 in one direction and 55 in another, or perhaps 55 and 89, both pairs of neighbouring Fibonacci numbers. But if you travel from one flower to the next, you may notice that these counts are not always exact. Sometimes the numbers deviate, sometimes the spiral is a little irregular, sometimes environmental or genetic quirks introduce quirks of their own. The underlying mathematics is not a strict law, but a tendency, a guiding principle shaped by growth, limitation, and the gentle pressure of evolution. To understand why, let us dive beneath the surface into the cellular machinery of a growing plant. Picture a young sunflower's tip called the meristem, a crowded stage where new seeds, or florets, are born one after the other. Each new floret must find its place among those already present, seeking a patch of sunlight and space. The optimal way to pack these points efficiently, so that each has room to grow, turns out to be related to the golden angle, approximately 137.5 degrees. If each new floret appears at this angle from the last, the seeds never quite line up, and over time the result is a dense, uniform filling of the available space. But even here the mathematics is not absolute. The golden angle emerges not from a conscious calculation, but from the play of chemical signals, hormones like auxin diffusing through the plant's tissues, accumulating and being depleted in rhythmic pulses. This interplay, governed by equations but also by the messiness of biology, yields a pattern that is often close to, but rarely identical to, the neat perfection of a mathematical spiral on paper. The Fibonacci numbers, then, are not rules, but attractors, stable outcomes toward which the system drifts, more often than not, but from which it may occasionally stray. This theme, of mathematics as tendency rather than law, repeats itself throughout the living world. Consider the branching of trees, another case where patterns invite mathematical scrutiny. The principle of self-similarity, where the form of the whole echoes in its parts, is often cited here. The trunk splits into branches, which themselves branch further in a fractal dance that can be described by recursive equations. Yet no tree is truly a fractal in the mathematical sense. The recursive rules are interrupted by wind, by the weight of snow, by wounds and the hunger of browsing animals. What persists is not the equation itself, but a statistical resemblance, a tendency toward certain ratios and shapes that maximize sunlight and minimize mechanical stress. The notion of fractals, those infinitely repeating patterns, has cast a long shadow over our understanding of natural forms. The coastlines of continents, the outlines of clouds, the delicate veins of leaves, all have been described as fractal, and indeed, when measured, their roughness and complexity can be captured by a fractal dimension, a number that expresses how detail persists as you zoom in or out. Yet in nature this repetition is always truncated. Coastlines are only fractal down to the grain of sand, leaves only as far as the veins can split before reaching the limits of cell size. The mathematics, again, is an ideal, a lens through which we glimpse the rules, shaping the possible but not the actual. At the heart of this seeming contradiction of mathematics as both the language and the limitation of nature lies the deep complexity of the world itself. No two snowflakes are identical, though all are born from the same equations of crystallization and the same six-fold symmetry of water molecules. The patterns that emerge are not dictated solely by mathematical formulae, but by the interplay of temperature, humidity, motion, and chance. Each flake is the outcome of billions of collisions, of shifting fields of vapor and the slow dance of molecules locking into place. The equations tell us what is possible: hexagons, stars, plates, columns, but not which will come to be. This is a subtle but profound distinction. Mathematics provides the framework, the set of constraints within which nature operates. But the particular pattern that emerges, the precise shape of a shell or the branching of a lightning bolt, is the outcome of both the underlying rules and the particular history of that moment. In a sense, mathematics in nature is not a script, but a score, one that leaves ample room for improvisation, for variation, for the infinite complexity that arises from a few simple rules combined with the randomness of the world. To further untangle this complexity, let us turn to the realm of animal markings, the stripes of the zebra, the spots of the leopard, the shifting patterns of the cuttlefish. For much of history, these markings were considered the inscrutable products of chance or the whims of evolution. But in the 20th century, the mathematician Alan Turing proposed a theory that would forever change our understanding. He suggested that these patterns could arise from chemical reactions, specifically from the interaction of two substances, an activator and an inhibitor, diffusing through the skin and reacting in a way that amplifies tiny fluctuations into visible spots, stripes, or labyrinths. These so-called reaction-diffusion equations, now known as Turing patterns, have been shown to capture much of the diversity we see in animal coats. By tweaking the rates of reaction and diffusion, the equations can produce stripes, spots, or even more intricate mosaics. Yet here too, the mathematics is not destiny. Real animals are subject to genetic mutations, environmental influences, and the unpredictable swirls of development. The math predicts what is possible, what sorts of patterns are likely, but the final result is always a unique creation, shaped by 1,000 influences both seen and unseen. The same holds true in the dazzling world of crystals and minerals. The precise angles and facets of a quartz crystal, the hexagonal prisms of snowflakes, the cubic symmetry of salt, all arise from the mathematics of atomic packing, the way that atoms and molecules arrange themselves to minimize energy. But impurities, temperature changes, and the chaotic jostling of atoms in the growing crystal ensure that no two specimens are ever truly alike. The mathematics describes the skeleton, the ideal form, but the flesh is always shaped by history. Even the shapes of living creatures, from the spiraled horns of antelopes to the coiled shells of mollusks, reveal the interplay of mathematics and contingency. The logarithmic spiral, often invoked in these cases, is a mathematical curve that grows but never changes its shape, a property that allows a shell to expand as its occupant grows, without ever outgrowing its protective home. Yet, the actual shells we find in tide pools and on beaches are rarely perfect spirals. They are chipped, twisted, warped by the currents and the accidents of life. The mathematics guides the process, sets the boundaries, but the outcome is shaped by a world that is always moving, always changing. It is tempting, in the face of such complexity, to imagine that deeper laws must be at work, hidden symmetries, secret numbers that explain everything. But the truth is more subtle and, in its way, more beautiful. The world is shaped by simple rules, yes, but also by chance, by history, by the never-ending interplay of order and chaos. The mathematical patterns we see are not imposed from above, but emerge from below, from the local interactions of countless parts, each following rules so simple as to be almost mechanical, yet together building a tapestry of breathtaking intricacy. To see this most clearly, consider the flocking of birds, the swirling of starlings in a murmuration. Each bird follows a few simple rules. Keep close to your neighbors, match their speed, avoid collisions. There is no leader, no blueprint, no central command. Yet the collective movement of the flock forms patterns that seem almost choreographed, waves and eddies, ribbons and whirls that shift and reform in mid-air. Mathematicians have modeled these behaviors with equations borrowed from physics and computer science, and the patterns that emerge are eerily similar to what we see in the sky. But every flock is different, every moment unique, shaped by the wind, the landscape, the fleeting moods of 1,000 wings. This is the heart of the matter. Mathematics in nature is not a set of rigid instructions, but a language of possibility. It describes what can happen, what is likely, what is stable or unstable. But it does not dictate the outcome. The living world is too complex, too rich in history and chance for that. Instead, nature uses mathematics as a kind of grammar, a way of organizing form and function, of channeling energy and matter into shapes that work, that survive, that persist. The patterns we see, spirals, branches, waves, are the result of this ongoing negotiation, this dance between rule and accident, between the ideal and the real. Yet for all their imperfection, these patterns are not mere accidents. They are the signatures of deep processes, of constraints that arise from physics, chemistry, and evolution. When we look closely at a leaf, a shell, a snowflake, we are seeing not just matter shaped by chance, but the visible result of invisible rules, rules that have been tested and refined over millions of years, that emerge again and again because they work, because they make life possible in a world that is always changing. Still, there is a tendency, especially among those newly enchanted by the wonders of mathematics, to overstate the case, to see the golden ratio in every painting, the Fibonacci sequence in every flower, the fractal in every tree. But nature is not a geometer. It is a tinkerer, an improviser, a maker of things that are good enough, that work more often than not. The mathematics we find is often an approximation, a shadow, an echo of the ideal. And this, in the end, is what makes the patterns of nature so fascinating. They are not perfect, but they are real, shaped by necessity, by chance, by the long history of life on Earth. As you drift deeper into the night, let your thoughts linger on this vision of mathematics as possibility rather than prescription, as guidance rather than command. In the next turning of our journey, we will follow these patterns outward, seeking the invisible connections that link the living world to the deeper structures of the cosmos, patterns that echo across scales, from the smallest cell to the swirling arms of galaxies, hinting at a unity that transcends the accidents of biology and the contingencies of history. The night is long, and the web of mathematics stretches further than we can yet imagine, inviting us to trace its threads ever outward, ever deeper into the heart of mystery. Within the quiet hush of scientific inquiry, where the mind's eye lingers over the tessellated bark of trees, the rippling geometry of river deltas, or the spiral arms of galaxies, there arises a restless yearning. How do we truly decipher the language of nature? What instruments and methods allow us to peel aside the surface of things and glimpse the hidden rules beneath? As the world slumbers, let us wander through the history and tools of this grand decoding, meandering through candlelit studies, echoing laboratories, and wild landscapes where patterns whisper their truths. Long before microscopes and satellites, before code breakers and supercomputers, the first tools for unraveling nature's secrets were not forged of steel or glass, but arose from the mind itself. Early naturalists, philosophers, and mathematicians sought order in the seeming chaos of the living and non-living world. Their instruments were their senses, their records etched on parchment or clay, their laboratories the fields and forests unfurling beyond their homes. Consider the meticulous gaze of Leonardo da Vinci, his fingers stained with ink as he sketched the flowing curves of water in motion, the fractal branching of trees, the spiral arrangement of sunflower seeds. In the quiet of his study, he saw in the flight of birds and the eddies of rivers a hidden geometry. Leonardo was not alone. Ancient Greek thinkers like Pythagoras and Plato pondered the harmonious proportions of shells, crystals, and animal bodies, imagining a world governed by numbers and ideal forms. Their mathematics, born of abstraction, became the earliest chisel with which to chip away at nature's veiled complexity. As centuries passed, these early musings grew into more systematic endeavors. The Renaissance brought forth a flowering of curiosity and observation. The invention of the telescope and microscope, those twin keys to the very large and very small, ushered in an era of revelation. Galileo Galilei, with trembling anticipation, turned his telescope to the heavens and discovered that the moon's face was pocked with craters, its surface far from the perfect, smooth sphere philosophers had imagined. Robert Hooke, peering through his microscope, found the world of the small teeming with intricate structures, the honeycomb of cork, the crystalline lattice of snowflakes, the crawling multitudes of tiny life. Each new instrument was a lantern, illuminating previously unseen patterns, and each discovery a signpost on the path to understanding. But observation alone was not enough. The language of nature, while written in patterns, required translation. Mathematics became that language's grammar and syntax. Isaac Newton famously described mathematics as the language with which God has written the universe. With calculus, Newton and Leibniz gave scientists a way to describe motion, change, and growth, tools essential for decoding the trajectories of planets and the swelling curves of population graphs. The mathematical equations that emerged became blueprints, capturing the symmetry of snowflakes, the spiral of nautilus shells, and the branching of trees in succinct, elegant symbols. Yet, even as these early tools mapped the broad outlines of nature's patterns, deeper mysteries beckoned. The world's complexity seemed to resist easy explanation. In the tangled banks of rivers, the interlaced webs of leaves, and the irregular jaggedness of coastlines, nature's designs evaded neat classification. It would take the restless energy of the 19th and 20th centuries to develop new ways of seeing and understanding, to forge novel instruments and techniques for decoding the elusive order in apparent disorder. The rise of the scientific method itself, systematic observation, hypothesis, experimentation, and analysis, became a powerful engine for progress. Carefully designed experiments allowed natural philosophers to tease apart cause and effect, to measure, compare, and quantify. Statistical tools emerged, pioneered by thinkers like Francis Galton and Carl Pearson, providing a means to grapple with the variability and randomness inherent in biological populations or physical processes. The bell curve, or normal distribution, became a familiar friend, describing the spread of heights in a crowd, the distribution of errors in measurement, or the fluctuations of the stock market. As the centuries turned, the development of ever more sensitive instruments brought vistas of wonder. The microscope, refined and perfected, revealed the invisible machinery of cells, the clockwork of chromosomes, and the dancing filaments of DNA. The telescope, grown vast and keen-eyed, unveiled the swirling galaxies, their spiral arms echoing the whirls of seashells. Spectroscopy allowed chemists and astronomers alike to discern the fingerprints of elements by the light they emitted or absorbed, unraveling the composition of distant stars or the pigments in a single leaf. X-rays and magnetic resonance imaging laid bare the hidden structures within living bodies, exposing bones, organs, and even the activity of the brain. It was in this age of invention and precision that the search for patterns blossomed into whole new disciplines. In mathematics, the study of symmetry grew into group theory, charting the permissible ways patterns could repeat or transform. In the late 19th century, Russian mathematician Sofia Kovalevskaya and German mathematician Felix Klein mapped the symmetries of geometric objects, while crystallographers catalogued the possible arrangements of atoms in a crystal lattice. The periodic table, conjured by Dmitry Mendeleev, arranged the elements into tidy rows and columns, their properties rhythmically recurring, a grand pattern woven into the very fabric of matter. Nature, however, was not content with regularity alone. In the 1970s, mathematician Benoit Mandelbrot gazed at the jagged outline of coastlines and the branching of trees and saw a different kind of order. Fractals, shapes that repeat themselves on ever smaller scales, endlessly intricate yet governed by simple rules. Mandelbrot's fractal geometry gave scientists a new way to model the complexity of clouds, mountains, and turbulent flows. With the advent of computers, these recursive forms could be visualized in all their dizzying detail, their self-similar patterns echoing through mathematics, art, and the structure of living things. Computers themselves became indispensable tools for decoding nature's secrets. Early electronic machines, once the size of rooms, could simulate the orbits of planets, the folding of proteins, or the growth of populations. With each new generation of hardware and software, the power to model, analyze, and visualize grew. Data sets once too vast for any human mind to comprehend could be sifted, sorted, and rendered into revealing patterns. The rise of computational biology, climate modeling, and network theory opened new vistas: the mapping of gene regulatory networks, the simulation of evolving ecosystems, the tracing of social connections in human societies. As scientists probed deeper, new techniques emerged to make sense of the complexity. In the study of living organisms, genetic sequencing became a revolutionary tool. The double helix structure of DNA, uncovered by Rosalind Franklin, James Watson, and Francis Crick, revealed a molecular pattern underlying all life. Sequencing machines, humming in sterile laboratories, began to read the letters of this biological code, uncovering the patterns of inheritance, mutation, and evolution that shape every creature. The Human Genome Project, a decades-long international collaboration, mapped the entirety of our species' genetic blueprint, a vast pattern written in 4 chemical letters and 3 billion pairs. Patterns, it seemed, were not just to be found in static forms, but also in the restless dance of time. Physicists and mathematicians developed the tools of chaos theory to study systems that, though governed by simple rules, could behave unpredictably. The fluttering of a butterfly's wings, the tumbling of a leaf in the wind, the fluctuations of weather, all became subjects for mathematical investigation. Using nonlinear dynamics and sensitive dependence on initial conditions, chaos theory revealed a subtle order within apparent randomness, a tapestry of patterns woven out of chance and necessity. Experimentalists, too, devised ever more ingenious ways to reveal hidden order. By cooling atoms to near absolute zero, physicists could slow their motions enough to observe quantum patterns, wave functions, interference fringes, and the enigmatic dance of particles. In chemistry, high-speed cameras captured the fleeting geometries of chemical reactions, while in neuroscience, electrodes and imaging tools mapped the rhythmic firing of neurons, the oscillations and waves that underlie thought and perception. Across the sciences, visualization has become a crucial art. Raw data, in its native form, can be impenetrable, a jumble of numbers, a deluge of points and measures. But with clever plotting, coloring, and dimensional reduction, scientists can render these patterns visible: the branching of evolutionary trees, the clustering of galaxies, the hidden symmetries of molecules. Artists and scientists alike have seized upon these visualizations, creating images of breathtaking beauty, spiraling Mandelbrot sets, networks of neurons, the swirling clouds of Jupiter as seen by space probes. In recent decades, machine learning and artificial intelligence have joined the ranks of tools for decoding nature. Algorithms trained on vast collections of data can discern subtle patterns invisible to human eyes, predicting protein folding, classifying galaxies, or diagnosing disease from medical images. These artificial minds, though lacking the curiosity and wonder of their creators, extend our reach into the labyrinth of nature's designs, uncovering regularities and anomalies that challenge and refine our understanding. And yet, for all these powerful tools and techniques, there remains an element of artistry in the hunt for patterns. The best scientists are part detective, part poet, part craftsman. They know that nature's patterns are seldom revealed all at once, and that a certain humility is needed to approach the unknown. The tools may change: quill and ink, glass lens, cathode ray tube, silicon chip, but the impulse is the same: to listen for the whispers of order amid the clamor of complexity, to render the invisible visible, to translate the language of the world into forms we can read and share. There are moments, too, when the tools themselves suggest new patterns, when a chance observation, a shadow on a photographic plate, a blip on a monitor, a flicker in a data stream, opens a door onto unsuspected realms. The discovery of penicillin by Alexander Fleming, the cosmic microwave background by Penzias and Wilson, the first images of a black hole, all were made possible by the convergence of keen observation, refined instruments, and a readiness to see the unexpected. In the present day, the boundaries between disciplines blur and dissolve. Biologists borrow tools from physics and computer science. Mathematicians collaborate with artists and engineers. Patterns once thought the province of a single field are found to echo across domains. The spiral of a galaxy mirrored in the whirl of a shell. The branching of rivers echoed in the veins of leaves. The neural networks of the brain reflected in the topology of social connections. The techniques for decoding nature's secrets grow ever more sophisticated, yet the sense of wonder persists, an unbroken thread connecting us to the first humans who gazed at the stars and wondered at their order. As we drift through this gallery of inquiry, this hall of lenses, graphs, and equations, one truth becomes clear. The tools and techniques we wield are extensions of our own longing to understand, to find meaning in the world's multiplicity. Each discovery begets new questions, each revelation a deeper mystery. The spiral continues, ever inward, ever outward, as we seek to grasp the totality of the patterns that shape existence. But even now, as the hour grows late and the world outside settles into stillness, there is more to explore. For the ultimate challenge lies not just in cataloguing patterns, but in understanding their origins. What gives rise to order from chaos? What principles govern the emergence of structure amid randomness? As we step quietly forward, let us prepare to peer even deeper, to seek the hidden engines that drive the great and small symmetries of the universe, and to ponder what mysteries still wait just beyond the reach of our most ingenious tools. Beneath the dark vault of night, when the world has quieted and the familiar shapes of day have softened into shadow, the mind finds itself wandering along subtler paths. In that hush between waking and sleep, patterns begin to shimmer at the edge of perception. The silent pulse of numbers, the ghostly spirals of shells, the crystalline lattices of snow, the measured intervals between a cricket's song and the distant blinking of stars. These are the quiet signatures of mathematics, woven through existence not as mere abstractions, but as the very rhythm and architecture of the universe itself. In that gentle silence, let us linger on the question that has haunted sages, poets, and scientists since the dawn of inquiry. Why should mathematics, this silent language of form and relationship, so perfectly describe the world? Why do our most abstract mathematical imaginings, symbols scribbled on chalkboards, equations inked in notebooks, so often find their echo in the deep machinery of cosmos and life? Is mathematics discovered, a secret script inscribed before any mind could read it? Or is it invented, a lantern we carry as we press forward into the darkness? Or is it perhaps something stranger, a bridge between mind and matter, a heartbeat that pulses both within us and without? Through the lens of mathematics, the universe appears both familiar and utterly mysterious. Take, for instance, the principle of symmetry. To the ancient Greeks, symmetry was not merely a property to be admired in art or architecture, but a fundamental organizing principle of nature. The symmetry of a snowflake, the bilateral reflection of a leaf, the rotational harmony in the petals of a daisy, all seem to arise from invisible rules, as if the universe prefers certain patterns, selects them from an infinite gallery of possibilities. Yet symmetry is not only a matter of visual delight, it is a mathematical cornerstone. In physics, symmetries underlie the very laws that govern reality. A symmetry in time, the idea that the laws of physics do not change as moments slip by, leads inexorably through the mathematics of Emi Noether to the conservation of energy. Rotate a system, and if its laws remain unchanged, then angular momentum will be conserved. These are not mere coincidences, they are deep connections, as though the universe rewards consistency and invariance with the gift of lawfulness. The more deeply we peer into the fabric of things, the more mathematics appears not as a tool imposed from without, but as a kind of code that reality itself obeys. The equations of general relativity, their elegant curvatures describing the warping of space and time, are not only beautiful on paper, they are, astonishingly, accurate to the point of predicting the slow precession of Mercury's orbit, the bending of starlight around the sun, the subtle dance of black holes billions of years ago, whose tremors we now detect as gravitational waves. How strange that abstract symbols, born in the quiet chambers of the mind, should wield such power over the world. Yet mathematics is not only the skeleton on which the universe is hung, it is also the pulse, the movement, the change. Consider the concept of infinity. To think of an endless line stretching beyond all horizons, or the infinite regress of halves in Zeno's paradox, is to brush against something that seems both unavoidable and unsettling. Infinity arises whenever we ask about the very large or the very small, about the universe's beginning or the divisibility of space and time. In calculus, the infinite becomes manageable, a tool for summing endless series and describing motion. The paradoxes of infinity, so enigmatic to the philosophers of Greece, become in the hands of Newton and Leibniz the method by which we chart the path of comets and unravel the flows of rivers. Yet even as mathematics offers control, it retains its mystery. There are truths in mathematics that no proof can reach, as shown by Kurt Gödel, who revealed that within any sufficiently powerful mathematical system there will be statements that are true but unprovable within that system. Mathematics, for all its clarity, is never complete. There are always horizons that recede as we approach, always questions that deepen as we answer them. The map is always expanding, the territory always richer than we imagined. This duality, mathematics as both a tool and a mystery, finds its echo in our own minds. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. Long before formal mathematics arose, our ancestors watched the seasons turn, traced the shapes of animal tracks, learned the cycles of the moon. Each observation, each act of counting or measuring, was a negotiation with the world, a way of finding meaning in the apparent chaos. The first tally marks, etched into bone or clay, were not merely the beginnings of arithmetic, they were statements of intent, of hope, of connection. In marking time, in counting and measuring, early humans were aligning their lives with the deeper rhythms of the world. Over millennia, these humble beginnings unfurled into the vast edifice of mathematics as we know it today. Yet, even as mathematics has become more abstract, more rarefied, its roots remain in the soil of human experience. The patterns we see in mathematics are not imposed upon the world, nor are they wholly independent of us. Rather, they arise in the interplay between mind and matter, between the observer and the observed. When a child discovers the beauty of a geometric pattern, or when an architect traces the curve of a parabola in a bridge, there is a sense of recognition, as if something ancient and universal is being recalled. This recognition is not merely aesthetic. The same equations that describe the orbits of planets also describe the oscillations of atoms. The same patterns that govern the branching of trees or the spiral of a nautilus shell reappear in the structure of galaxies and the dynamics of hurricanes. The Fibonacci sequence, that simple progression of numbers where each is the sum of the two before, unfurls in the arrangement of sunflower seeds, the whorls of pine cones, the genealogy of bees. The golden ratio, irrational and infinite in its decimal expansion, arises in the proportions of leaves, the shapes of clouds, and the architecture of the Parthenon. But why should this be? Why should the world be so saturated with mathematical regularity, and why should our minds be so attuned to perceive it? Some philosophers have argued that mathematics is an invention, a human construct, a language we have devised to describe what we see. Others maintain that mathematics is discovered, that it exists independently, waiting to be found like a continent or a star. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the tension between these extremes. The mind, shaped by evolution to survive and flourish, has become exquisitely sensitive to the patterns that matter most. In seeking order, we find mathematics. In finding mathematics, we discover both the world and ourselves. Yet the mystery deepens when we consider the parts of mathematics that seem, at first, to have no application at all. The strange, shifting geometries of non-Euclidean space, once thought to be mere curiosities, eventually found their place in the theory of general relativity, where the fabric of space itself curves and bends. Prime numbers, those solitary sentinels scattered among the integers, are now the backbone of cryptography, securing the digital secrets of the modern world. Imaginary numbers, once dismissed as absurd, now describe the oscillations of circuits and the states of quantum systems. It is as though mathematics leads us, step by step, into realms we cannot yet imagine, its logic unfolding ahead of our understanding. There is a sense of inevitability, as if the universe is written in a language that we are only just beginning to decipher. From the symmetry of crystals to the chaos of weather, from the loops of string theory to the deep structure of number itself, mathematics is both the question and the answer, the riddle and the key. In contemplating this, one cannot help but feel a sense of awe, a kind of humility, before the immensity of what remains unknown. For every pattern we uncover, there are countless more concealed just beyond the reach of thought. The Mandelbrot set, with its infinite intricacy, reveals that even the simplest rules can yield forms of boundless richness. The unpredictability of prime numbers, the paradoxes of infinity, the undecidable truths lurking in formal systems, all remind us that mathematics is as much a realm of wonder as of certainty. And within this wonder, there is also a profound connection to the human experience. The search for understanding, the desire to find meaning in the world, is as old as humanity itself. Mathematics, in its abstraction and precision, offers a way to bridge the gulf between the tangible and the intangible, between the fleeting world of perception and the timeless world of form. It allows us to glimpse, however briefly, the underlying unity of things, a unity that binds the drop of dew to the curve of a planet, the fluttering heartbeat to the rhythm of the stars. This unity is not static, but dynamic, a living pulse, a cosmic dance. The equations that govern the flow of rivers also describe the movement of air and the diffusion of heat. The fractal geometry of coastlines echoes in the branching of lightning and the veins of leaves. In the interplay of chaos and order, of symmetry and asymmetry, of the finite and the infinite, we find the deep music of existence. It is a music we can hear, if only faintly, in the patterns of our own lives, in the cycles of sleep and waking, in the beating of hearts, in the rise and fall of breath. As we listen to this music, as we trace its motifs through the labyrinth of mathematics, we are reminded that our questions are themselves part of the pattern. The act of asking, of wondering, is not separate from the world it seeks to understand. The mathematician, the physicist, the philosopher, the artist, all are engaged in a dialogue with the universe, a conversation that spans centuries and civilizations. Each new discovery, each new equation is a thread in the tapestry, connecting us to the minds and dreams of those who came before and to the mysteries that still await. In the end, mathematics is not only the heartbeat of existence, but also the heartbeat of inquiry. It is the restless pulse of curiosity, the quiet insistence that there is always more to see, more to learn, more to love. In the darkness before sleep, as the mind drifts on the edge of dreams, we are carried by this pulse, this gentle rhythm, into the infinite possibilities of thought. And so, as the night deepens and the world grows quiet, let us rest in the knowledge that the patterns we glimpse are only the beginning, that the music of mathematics will continue to play, inviting us to listen, to wonder, and to join in the dance. Somewhere, just beyond the reach of understanding, the next question is waiting, poised like a note on the edge of silence, ready to begin. And so, our journey through the hidden mathematics of nature gently drifts to a close, like a comet tail fading into the hush of space. As spirals unwind and snowflakes settle softly, may your mind wander peacefully among these quiet cosmic patterns. Rest here for now, and when you're ready, return for more Dreamtime tales that shimmer just beyond the stars.